Good morning and welcome to another edition of Peter Rollins's, I don't have a name for it to be honest, Radical Theology Industrial Complex Facebook Live event. I don't know if that works. I'm glad you're tuning in. I hope you're keeping well. I hope you had a good weekend, 4th of July and all of that, if you're American. I went to a nice barbecue and just had a nice relaxing couple of days. I did just fall and really hurt my foot there. I went outside to get a package and tripped and spilt coffee everywhere. So my day is starting off like that. I just thought I would check in and, give another thought, tell a parable. What's interesting is that finally I have been able to release the audio version of this book. I actually recorded it a few years ago with my friend Cindy McCoy. She's brilliant. She knows all about sound stuff, and she said, listen, let's just record an audio. My publisher said, yep, that's totally fine. You're not selling any copies anyway, so it's not going to cost us anything. So we set up a recording studio in my house at the time when I was living in Connecticut. And I was literally in my kind of cupboard with all of these clothes around me in pitch black. We had a bare bulb, and she was outside with all of the equipment, and I read the book and almost destroyed my eyesight in the process. And we got it done. We also included this kind of soundscape from a friend of mine, the artist Johnny McEwen, who's called Dub. And so we kind of create something that's also a bit meditative and reflective. And we were really pleased with the result, but we didn't really know what to do with it. So I think we sold, Homebrew Christianity sold it for a while, and that was cool. But then it hasn't been available. But I have just set up a shop on my website. I say it's a shop. It's not really much of a shop, but it's a way for people to kind of download some of the online teaching courses I do, because I don't teach in universities very much. But I do these online courses. It's a way to get them. And I just the other day put The Orthodox Heretic on, so you can find it, and I'm hoping it's working. If you buy it and for some reason it doesn't work, just email me and I'll send you the files. But because of that, in honor of The Orthodox Heretic now being in audible form, I thought I would tell you one of the parables and chat about it. As always, feel free to write comments about my bathrobe or anything else. Ask questions. Already I see a few comments. Oh, someone's, is that Thai? Is it Thai? I don't know how to pronounce that, but you're in Melbourne. I love Melbourne. I've been there once, super cool. I'm actually in Sydney, Australia in September. I don't think I'm going to get to Melbourne, unfortunately. It's 1:23, okay? This is like your sleeping tablet. You're going to hear a parable, and it's going to lull you to sleep, because you're obviously got a bit of insomnia. Let's see, hey Ryan, Timothy. Oh, thanks. It's an excellent book. Well done. I'm not even paying him to say that. Oh, nice robe from Phil. Thank you very much. I'm a big fan of robes because I mostly am very lazy and like to sit in the house and read or write. The robe is a very important thing. If I was to write a book about the art of writing, point one would be get a nice robe. No way. I'm Moira from Belfast. That's great to see someone from back home tuning in. Fantastic. Okay. The parable I want to tell you is called Finding Faith. And instead of reading it, I'll just tell it. Hopefully I can remember it. It's been a few years. But it's about this pastor who has this ability, finds out early on in his life that when he lays hands on people, he's kind of a bit of a charismatic, he lays hands on people and he starts to pray, people lose all of their beliefs, all of their religious convictions. Belief in gods, belief in angels and demons, beliefs in the Bible, it all just dissipates. And so, of course, this is not a good thing to have in his line of work. So he decides, I better not pray for people, leave that for somebody else. I'll try and do good works, try and preach. So that's all very well. But then one day he's on a train and he's going to some appointment, and he's across from this kind of stressed out older guy in a suit, and he hears him on the phone, and he's shouting at someone on the other side about work stuff, threatening to fire this person. Then the conductor comes up. He's very rude to the conductor. He's just this ball of stress and anger. Now, as he's talking on the phone and shouting, this businessman notices, the pastor notices that he's carrying a Bible. And so when he hangs up, he leans over to the pastor and says, "Listen, sorry about that. I'm just very stressed at the moment. Work is very difficult. I'm in a very tough business. You got to be strong, uncompromising. You've got to be respected and feared." And he says, "Yeah, it's difficult, but the truth is I'm a man of deep faith." He says, "I go to my church every week. I read my Bible religiously. I'm involved in youth work. I do some kind of outreach stuff." He says, this work, what you see here in this suit, that's not really me. I'm a child of God. You're a child of God. This passes in an instant. This is nothing. In the eternal, this is just a blink of an eye. This is a false self. Our true identities are in God. So the pastor thinks for a second and then says, "Would you mind, if I prayed for you?" And so the guy says, "Oh yeah, that would be fine." Businessman's very happy, closes his eyes. Pastor just leans over, puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, says a simple prayer. Well, businessman opens up his eyes and is like, "What a fool I've been, believing in God and the Bible and some sort of heaven above and hell below. It's all ridiculous. Yeah, I've been a fool." Like these scales fall from his eyes. He says, "I was blind, but now I see." They continue on. The pastor gets off the train and the businessman goes to his work. Well, the problem is now the businessman doesn't have this idea that his real identity is in God and that this is just some passing thing. Now he has to look at what he does and he realizes that he's just a hard-nosed, stressed out, angry businessman in a job that he doesn't really like, treating people in ways that he doesn't really like. Eventually he has a breakdown, gives it all up, gives a lot of his money away, starts working for a charity organization, starts feeling much better about himself. Then years later, he's walking down the street, he sees this pastor. He runs up to the pastor, he grasps him, and he says, "Thank you for helping me discover my faith." Now, when I wrote this, I was trying to explore how beliefs of any kind can cover over our real sense of who we are. So in the Bible, it's called the heart. Your beliefs are in your heart. And in more contemporary language, you can talk about the unconscious. The idea is that our beliefs are not primarily in our consciousness. What we believe is not primarily what we say we believe, what we can kind of rhyme out, what we can put on a form, what we can write down on a piece of paper. So for example, if you were to do a theology test or something where you have to write down your beliefs on a piece of paper, that in a sense isn't what you believe. Most of what we believe is unconscious, is stuff that we don't realize, that we can't actually accept, that we want to hide from ourselves. And as I say, in the biblical tradition, this is called the heart. The heart is where your beliefs reside that you're not even aware of. And they come out in your actions. Now, this isn't a simple move from orthodoxy, right belief, to orthopraxis, right practice, because your practices as well can be things that you pretend, things that you put on for the sake of, creating an image of yourself that works. Okay. Actually, I'll show you this picture that explains it. Some of you will have seen this in previous Facebook Live events. I have this interesting poster of Joseph Stalin meeting a sailor. This was done in 1948 by a graphic designer called Pyotr Golub. And it was standard propaganda poster. You've got the flag in the background, you've got Stalin standing strong, you've got the proud sailors and the boats in the background. Typical propaganda poster of the day. But just before it was printed, mass produced and put up, somebody on the censorship committee said, this is an abomination. This poster is a bad omen. Pyotr Golub was arrested, and this poster never was put up. And it's actually quite hard to get, so I've got it. Now, when you look at it, you go, why was it a bad omen? Why was this something that was seen as a offensive image? Well, if you look at it closely, you'll notice that Stalin's hands only have 3 fingers. His left hand only has 3 fingers. So he's either hiding a finger or he doesn't have one. And actually his hands are kind of monsters. They're cartoonish, because if you know cartoons, cartoon hands have 3 fingers, not 4. So he's missing a finger. Why did Pyotr Golub do that? Was he doing it deliberately? Well, it's a very risky thing to do. It's hard to imagine he would. He'd know that he'd be killed for it, probably his family as well. Was it a mistake? Well, that's also difficult to imagine, because, he's a good artist. How could you not only be bad at drawing hands, but be bad at knowing that you were bad at drawing hands and actually give Stalin 3 fingers? It could have been a type of artistic Freudian slip. A Freudian slip is when you do something, a mistake that you don't even realize is a mistake. You say something or you do something that you're not conscious of, that reveals something very deep about your heart or your unconscious, your desires, the desires that you're not even able to admit to yourself. A Freudian slip might be using the wrong person's name, or always losing your keys when you're about to visit your mum, or something like that. Some little thing that goes on in your life that you're not even aware of, but that speaks a truth. Now, what I'm doing in this parable is trying to say that, in a way, the truth of who we are is in our outbursts of anger, our stress, or how we treat other people, not necessarily in the image we have. In other words, like this propaganda poster, we have an image of ourselves. It's like a propaganda thing. We present ourselves well, just like a propaganda poster presents a social, political system well. But then you have the symptom, some little detail that doesn't fit, some little detail that doesn't kind of like mold with everything else. So this is like a Facebook profile that we create for ourselves, but the symptom is something like, for example, if it's Facebook, everything looks great. Person's putting up all these great posters about themselves and their life and all of that, but they're continually telling you how great their life is, either in words or in photographs. Now, if they're constantly doing that, that can be a little symptom sometimes that maybe they're not happy. Because, the fact that you have to keep telling yourself and other people that you're happy can sometimes be a signal that actually deep down you're not happy. So you're happy, because if you're really happy, you don't have to kind of tell everybody all the time. You're just happy. So sometimes, that the little symptom is that strange thing you notice, that every day this person is trying to paint a perfect picture on their Instagram of their existence. And sometimes they are just happy. But as I say, if it's continual, if it's obsessive, then it can often point to something that they may not be able to admit to themselves, not even to me, the viewer, but potentially to themselves. And so sometimes what we need to do is we need to get rid of our beliefs, see behind them, see that those beliefs are not what we think, but are actually designed to cover over what we think. Where we say, I love animals, I think animals are fantastic. But, truth is I eat them. I eat them all the time. So maybe I don't. Maybe I just say that I do. I can go to the zoo, or I can, see a movie that has lots of farmhouse animals and think they're deeply cute. But in one sense, my actions and what I do kind of more speaks about what I think. Or I say, I love my family, I think they're brilliant. But then someone points out that I never phone them. Go, okay, well maybe actually the truth is I have some unresolved issues with them, and although I tell myself that everything's great and we get on really well, the very symptom, the very fact that I avoid contacting them might show that there's something there. So in some respects, belief, conscious belief, which we concentrate on all the time in in our world, like in the religious world, it's very, very important. But in various ways, we think that if we can just sort things out consciously, it's all going to be good. But there's something about the tradition, the biblical tradition, that's asking us to actually be honest with ourselves. Look at the truth of our desires and our drives. Look at the truth of the things that we'd rather not admit to ourselves. Make peace and space for those so that we can bring them to the surface, look at them, expose them to the light of day, and so they can be actually transformed. And that the real heart of faith is not about, right belief here, but it's about transforming the heart. There's that verse that is in the Bible about, cleaning, you clean the outside of the cup, Jesus says, but the inside of the cup is dirty. Now, this cup is actually very dirty on the outside. The idea is, we spend time cleaning the outside, as in the consciousness. We create the propaganda poster of our lives and try and make that look as good as possible. And in social media, of course, we have our Instagrams and our Twitters and our Facebooks, where we can show how much we care about the world and how much we care about certain issues, and pictures that make us look like we're having a great time. We can curate our image of ourselves. And that, just by the way, is an epiphenomenon of what we've done before social media. Our very bodies are our Facebook profiles. Our consciousness is our idealized, photoshopped version of ourselves. But then we have, as I say, this other area, this something else which is seen in the symptoms and what doesn't fit. And just like a detective goes into a murder scene and everybody sees what the murderer wants them to see, the detective sees the little anomaly, the little thing that doesn't quite fit with the picture that the criminal's trying to tell. Columbo, who's my favourite detective of all time, he'll come in and he'll notice, oh, right, so this guy was smoking, one of his cigarettes fell on the ground, set fire to the carpet, he died of smoke inhalation. Okay, but then Columbo goes, okay, why is it that one cigarette in the ashtray has been stubbed out? All the other ashtrays in the house have just been left to die naturally. So the guy obviously smokes a cigarette, puts it down, lets it die. But the ones in the office have been scrunched out. That's an anomaly. And it turns out that that's the anomaly that leads to the truth. The truth that someone else came in, stubbed out the cigarettes. Because the next thing he notices is when you smoke a cigarette, there's always a little bit of tobacco at the end, a little bit of stain. Why is it the ones that have been stubbed out don't have any stain on the end? It looks like a non-smoker has come in, lit a few cigarettes, stumped them out to make it look like it was an accident. So we have to become detectives in our lives as individuals and in our countries, looking for the anomalies that speak the truth that we cannot look at, bringing that to the surface so that change can happen. All right, let me see if there's any questions or thoughts. Lots of people have tuned in, that's great. Let's see. James says, I'm constantly trying to find a concise explanation of your approach to faith, or Tillich's view even. I find it difficult. Guess it means I'm still wrestling with that. Yeah, brilliant. And partly that might be my fault for not kind of being more concise, but also partly, this stuff is more about entering into a conversation, and there's points in that conversation. There's areas that are more important than others to someone like me, but it's about an invitation into a type of conversation. And so in a sense, if it was very easy to pin down, it would kind of be the opposite of what this is about. Because, as in terms of what we're saying here, it's like being able to, Kierkegaard said, like, Christianity is not the reduction of religion to some sort of multiple choice that you can just tick the right answers and get into heaven. It's something much more interesting. So I'm glad you're wrestling with all of this, James. Keep tuning in. Louise says I could have dressed up a bit to chat to us. This is me dressed up. I think this is very dapper. I should have a cigar. Oh yeah, Clint.